Welcome to Civil Air Patrol Now, the official U.S. Air Force Auxiliary news source. In our next story, we highlight one of our own members, Chaplain Van Don Williams. He was a New York City fireman during 9/11. He is also currently the chaplain of the New York Wing. He truly is one of Civil Air Patrol's everyday heroes.
Well, I originally joined Civil Air Patrol in 1984. I was drafted by my older brother, who was a squadron commander of a squadron here in New York City group called Academy. Once I began to find out what Civil Air Patrol was about and the idea of flying, I had the experience of flying with my older brother in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We were there for a few years, so I was able to continue that tradition in Civil Air Patrol. I was called back to New York City to be a firefighter, so that was an opportunity to come back home and to join this civil service job. And that's where I started. Started in Queens as a truckie on a ladder. No matter what, I have to be on call 24 hours at a time. And whenever you're at the firehouse, you really belong to the city. And at that moment, I realized that being a firefighter meant that I'm there to save lives, even if it means I have to give my own up. The morning of 9/11, I had just finished my tour. I just finished 24 hours straight working September 10th. And at the time the first plane hit, we were sitting in the kitchen and the news came on, and most of the firefighters, we saw the hole that the plane had left, so we thought it was a small plane that hit the World Trade Center. After a while, the second plane hit, and then that's when the bell for Queens went off. I just suited up, as I knew the chief and I were going to be one of the lead battalions going there. And so I said a prayer, and I got in the car to assume my duties. And my duties not only is to coordinate communications at a scene, but to also make sure where the fire units are, where they're placed. The most obvious thing for me as a firefighter was I approached tower number 1, which was the last tower standing. And I'm walking with my chief toward the building, and we were a block and a half away when it came down. And my last recollection before trying to hold my breath for 3 minutes, which actually came out to about 10 seconds, was the volume of smoke coming at me. Well, once the building came down, it was an eerie sound on the radio. It was just like you can only hear static. And I thought about it as being like almost the sound of darkness, where nobody was talking. And I'm sitting there knowing that I'm still alive, but I'm not hearing any communication from any other firefighters or officers on the channels that we're in. And then we proceeded to where we thought the towers were. And all I can remember is after getting there that I realized that I had been standing on 40 feet of steel and concrete and whatever else was underneath there. We did go from a rescue mode into just trying to find whatever survivors we knew. I didn't know we had lost that many companies, but because most of the trucks and things were underneath these 40 feet of rubble. But it did give me a glimpse, and I said to myself when I stood on this pile that this only gave me a glimpse of what it must have looked like in war-torn Germany or war-torn England in World War II. One of the greatest things that Civil Air Patrol has done for me is Civil Air Patrol trained me for my job at 9/11. I had taken a basic critical incident stress management course and teaching us chaplains and clergy about dealing with folks in stress and traumatic events. But when it came to 9/11, and because of the loss of so much life, and it hit so many different firehouses throughout the city, many of my firefighters, for those that were there, were traumatized. So I was able to take that training that I received from Civil Air Patrol in May, began to use it in June, and then especially in September with my firefighters. And most important, I used most of this training with the chiefs that I drove. That day I lost 12 chiefs that I had driven in my 20 years. 12 of them were there at 9/11, and 12 of them passed away. And over the course of the next month and a half, all the firehouses that we went to, I was able to come and grab some of the senior men and ask them which are the guys that used to laugh that are not talking now, and let me know who they are, and then I was able to begin to talk to them that way. Well, this organization has been around since 1941. It was started, and it has been doing this for this country, helping out in the way that it can. Individuals using their own airplanes and people using their own communications to be of assistance to our country. And that's why I see this as one of the most important things that you can do, is volunteer. It's free, but it also allows you to give your talents, your gifts, your essence of what's in you to your country and to others. And in doing that, you'll get more satisfaction out of life because you actually had to give in order to receive.